Recently, on what felt like a random whim, I started playing Black Desert Online. And to be honest, it's pretty fun. I'm decently engaged with it. Got to level 61, joined a guild, started gearing up, the whole shebang. Very cool, very fun. But of course, Black Desert is a pretty infamous game. People play it because there's nothing quite like it out there, but to be honest, it's a game made almost in its entirety to sell you a cash shop. Now, in my opinion, this game is pretty obviously pay to win. That doesn't mean the game should burn in the bowels of hell for eternity or anything, rather, it's just a factual statement in my eyes. This is a game where you can pay to get an advantage. But many in the community will refute this statement, saying it's only pay for convenience. This statement is so nonsensical, it hurts. So nonsensical that I was in fact motivated entirely by this to create a video on it, even if only 5 people watch it and even if everyone else has beaten me to this by a decade. I still felt like using this to vent, because it is such a flawed and insecure argument that it makes me nauseous every time I hear it. You see, BDO, that is Black Desert Online, has a lot of different systems that all optimize your character's performance and many tasks. First, there's gear enhancement, which is the most basic system there is in the game. Every Korean MMO has something like this. You get a piece of gear, you gather some enhancement materials to enhance that gear and make it better. Of course, it gets progressively more expensive to enhance as the level rises, and there's a chance the gear enhancement fails. And if it does, then not only do you lose enhancement materials, but you also lose an enhancement level on the piece of gear. But this is okay, you'll hear everyone say, because it's not like you can just buy enhancement levels. And they're right, you can't. What you can do instead is buy outfits to disenchant into Cronstones, which help you avoid losing an enhancement if you fail. Keep in mind, the stones do not help your chances of success, they just eliminate the problem of gear losing enhancement on failure. Some people will argue, that's not winning, it's just risk avoidance. But are you really saying that in a PvP game, me potentially losing a level on my gear and you having no such risk isn't winning? Of course, anyone smart will take no risk with their gear. There's other methods of enhancement that carry no risk, even though they take 5 billion years to achieve what regular enhancement does. Not to mention techniques like fill stacking that you should probably look up a guide on because it's a lot to explain and the video is already very wordy. Anyways, the point is, you too can face little to no risk when enhancing, just like someone who paid for outfits to turn into Cronstones does. So it's not pay to win. There are many other systems similar to this. Fairies, for example, have a random rarity applied to them when you get them, and random skills as they level up. How do they level up? Well, you either spend a few hours grinding to make sweet honey wine, or grinding for the money to buy sweet honey wine from the market, or you buy dark honey wine from the cash shop. But hey, you can earn the same thing in game, and it's just a few hours. So, the fairies have randomized skills as they level up, and the only way to reroll any of these skills is by using the cash shop. Otherwise, you have to roll a new fairy of the rarity you want. And then you have to level it up all over again, and try again with several fairies until you get the skill, or skills, God help you, that you're looking for. Even something as simple as your mount will also have randomized skills, and if you don't like them, then buddy, you better find a new horse or buy one of our handy horse skill change coupons from the shop. Pets are a very egregious example here, since they give bonuses to certain skills or XP gain and greatly expedite the loot gathering process. Grinding without tier 3 pets, which is when they have the fastest loot gathering speed, is playing with a handicap. To get 5 pets, the maximum you're allowed to deploy at any given time, to tier 3, you have to either wait for an event to give you more pets to fuse together if the developers are feeling generous, or you buy them from the market from people who spent money, and almost nobody sells them on the market as they're terrible value proposition for the seller. This is all because the amount you receive through the story and side quests is not enough to fuse 5 tier 3 pets. And if you really care about the specific skills they receive, then we're back to playing the RNG game with cash shop items. The last example of this is outfits, which give you different bonuses to XP gain or life skills while wearing them that you can't really get as a free player unless you buy it from the market from someone else who paid real money, which almost never happens, as these are in such high demand that they're almost impossible to get. All of these are pretty obviously annoying time sinks made to get you to spend money or suffer a grind to turn the RNG in your favor. But people will argue they're not pay to win because they do not confer upon you a direct advantage. You know, you can't buy a fully upgraded Pen Griffin's helmet for $20 from the cash shop. Instead, you just buy a bunch of stuff that makes it way easier to get the Pen Griffin's helmet, and it actually costs you maybe $100. And you can get it all in game anyway, so it's more like you're paying to skip the grind for resources. Now, I want you to notice here that you can never just straight up buy something. You instead pay for chances to get the thing that you want. The reason for this is that it seems cheap, but actually adds up to a lot of money. You could sell a blinged out fairy for $20, or you could sell chances to modify the fairy at $5 each. You will almost certainly spend more money on these supposedly low cost microtransactions than you would on just buying the fairy. The end result, however, is the same. You get the blinged out fairy nearly instantly, it just costs more money. But BDO has plenty of whales willing to fork over the cash. Is that pay to win? Yes. First off, I'm not sure who sold you the idea that just because you can achieve something or buy an item in game, it's not pay to win for it to be available in the cash shop. If I pay for something that skips X hours of grind, that means I am effectively ahead of you by X amount of hours. Now, maybe you could hand wave this away in something that is effectively a single player game like Genshin Impact, but Black Desert Online is not only multiplayer, it's a PvP focused game, so an advantage, even when it comes to life scaling, often translates to an advantage in PvP. If I buy a cooking outfit to help me cook faster and I make more money from cooking, that directly translates to me having more resources than you. And yes, this also applies to XP boosts, temporary though they may be. Secondly, even if the cash shop items were only pay for convenience, that would still be an issue. It is one thing to be sold the solution to a problem when the problem cannot be helped. This happens in real life all the time. You need braces. Dentists get paid to provide you with braces and maintenance for those braces. This is perfectly fine. But in video games, selling a quality of life add-on means that you are making the game inconvenient on purpose. It's not a coincidence, it's not a fact of life, because as a developer, you are the god of the game. You get to decide every aspect of how that game works. Any inconvenience in the game is your fault, a problem you created only to try and sell me the solution. This is like God giving you bad teeth and trying to upsell you on a dental plan. In short, it's never about just convenience, not just because selling a shortcut to a thing is as good as basically selling the thing itself, not just because it gives players an advantage over others, but because no matter which way you slice it, it represents a fundamental handicapping of the base player experience to sell you a shortcut. This is not good. When you sell something, it should be content, not shortcuts to content. In my head, as I see it, it's as simple as that. And that is really all I have to say on the subject. I apologize that you had to listen to me ramble on for so long. You should do something more productive or maybe enjoy the rest of your day in a lazy haze, much like I often do. I know this is a subject that many people have covered, but I felt like maybe certain arguments weren't being given enough attention, and also I like hearing myself talk. Maybe you should try it sometime. I'm sure your voices are far more pleasant to the human ear than mine. Have fun, and until next time, if there even is one, so long and goodbye.